I sat in the corner of the attorney's office, hands folded, saying nothing. Across from me, my sister Danielle beamed like a pageant winner. She slid a crisp white envelope across the table with such flair, you'd think it held a lottery ticket instead of a last will and testament. Her tone was sweet syrupy. "This is what our mother wanted," she said, locking eyes with the lawyer. I didn't flinch, not yet. Danielle leaned back, confident. Her nails were perfect, her smile polite. She glanced at me once, barely. Not a flicker of guilt on her face. Not a hint of hesitation. The attorney, a middle-aged man named Mr. Kent, put on his glasses and opened the envelope. He skimmed it quietly, his brow furrowing. Danielle's smile held firm, until it didn't. "This document," he said slowly, "is not notarized. And there are irregularities in the signature." Danielle's smile faltered. "It's just an older version. She never got around to the final one, but this one reflects her true wishes." I could see it, the lie trembling in her voice, but she still believed she had the upper hand. So I opened my purse, pulled out an envelope that had aged at the edges with a small red sticker sealing it shut. I slid it across the table. "Actually," I said calmly, "this is the final version, signed, witnessed, notarized, 6 months after the one she's holding." Danielle went pale. Mr. Kent raised an eyebrow, then opened it. His silence grew heavy. This is valid," he said, "and it names Olivia Harper." He looked at me as the sole executor and beneficiary. Danielle's voice cracked. "That's not possible. That's not what she wanted. That's not—" "It's exactly what she wanted," I cut in. "She told me herself, and I promised I would protect it." The air in the room shifted. Danielle stared at me like I'd betrayed her. But I didn't owe her anything, not after what she'd tried to pull. She forged a will, lied to our family, tried to erase me from our mother's final words. And for what money control revenge, Mr. Kent cleared his throat. "I'll need to notify the court immediately. This is a serious matter." Danielle stood abruptly, nearly knocking her chair over. "You've always wanted everything. You're just twisting this to make me look bad." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I had the truth. And now everyone else did too. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. "Mr. Kent looked at me, eyes wide. "I've seen a lot of messy estates," he said, "but never one quite like this." I exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. I'd kept quiet. I'd watched her perform. I'd let her dig her own grave with every smug glance and every sweet lie. But I hadn't come unprepared. I came with the real will. I came with my mother's words on paper, signed in ink and sealed with trust. And I came ready to finish what she started. Danielle was always the star of the family. She was born with a perfect head of curls, big blue eyes, and a cry that could command a room. Even in our childhood photos, she's front and center, grinning, arms wide open. I'm usually off to the side, quiet, holding a book, or my stuffed rabbit. Growing up, Danielle had this magnetic charm that pulled people in. Teachers adored her. Boys tripped over themselves to carry her books. Even my mom, as much as she tried to hide it, leaned toward Danielle's brightness like a plant toward sunlight. And I, Olivia, the younger one, was steady, sensible, invisible. It wasn't that we didn't love each other. We did. But Danielle loved the spotlight. I was more comfortable in the wings. Our paths were different, always had been. When our dad passed away suddenly when I was 14, everything shifted. Mom was devastated. Danielle, already in college, flew home for a week, made casseroles, helped with the funeral, and then left. I stayed. I helped Mom grieve. I grew up fast. That pattern never changed. Danielle showed up for the big moments, birthdays, Christmases, graduations, but never stayed long. She always had an excuse: work, travel, her husband, her kids, her yoga retreat. But when Mom got sick, none of that mattered anymore. It started with fatigue. Then came the weight loss, the slurred speech, the confusion. The diagnosis was brutal and fast: glioblastoma. Inoperable. We had maybe 6 months. Danielle cried over the phone. "Oh, Liv, this can't be happening. I'll come next weekend." Next weekend turned into next month. And then, nothing. Meanwhile, I was already packing my bags, moving back into the house, rearranging my life to be with Mom in her final season. It wasn't even a question. I didn't do it for inheritance or approval. I did it because she was my mother. Mom and I found a rhythm. I handled the medications, the appointments, the hospice team. I cooked her favorite soup, read her poetry at night. We watched old black and white movies and looked through family albums. Some nights, she'd talk about her life, the things she regretted, the love she missed, the memories she cherished. And one night, her voice weak but sharp, she looked at me and said, "Liv, I need you to get something for me. It's in the bottom drawer of my desk. A manila envelope." I went and got it. She placed it on her lap like it was gold. "I made a change," she said. "To my will." I blinked. "A change?" She nodded. "The old one gave the house to Danielle. She's already got a second home in Florida. But you gave up everything to be here with me. You've always been the one who shows up. This house, it should be yours." I didn't know what to say. She placed her hand on mine. "It's not about the house. It's about honoring what matters." I had it signed. Notarized. It's official. "I'm giving you this copy just in case." My fingers trembled as I took the envelope. She made me promise to keep it safe. And I did. After she passed, I stayed behind to clean the house, organize the paperwork, and prepare for the reading of the will. Danielle arrived 3 days later, full of flair and fresh perfume, wailing at the casket and hugging every relative like she hadn't been absent for months. Mom would have wanted me to handle things, she told the attorney. She always trusted me with the big stuff. I remember just watching her silent. When the lawyer asked for the will, she handed him a sleek envelope. The ink was still fresh. Her smile didn't budge. She said it had been finalized a month before Mom passed. That's when I knew. She had forged it. No notary stamp, no witnesses listed. And the signature, it wasn't right. My mother's handwriting had grown shaky toward the end. But the signature on Danielle's document was strong. Too strong. That night, I sat in my old bedroom staring at the envelope Mom had given me. I knew I'd need it. I'd hoped I wouldn't. But Danielle made her choice. She wasn't just trying to claim the house. She was trying to erase everything I'd done, everything Mom had said, every sacrifice. And all I could think was, "You've always wanted more than your share, Danielle. But this time, you went too far." I placed the real will in my purse and waited. Danielle was always good at theater. She could lie with tears in her eyes, voice trembling, just enough to seem sincere. And after our mother died, she leaned into that talent like a seasoned actress. The funeral, the eulogy, the dramatic pauses, every bit of it was curated. Even the way she dabbed the corner of her eye with a silk handkerchief screamed performance. To everyone else, she was the grieving daughter. To me, she was setting the stage for a quiet heist. When she presented the forged will to Mr. Kent, our mother's attorney, she didn't blink. Claimed Mom had mailed it to her just before her death, that she'd forgotten to mention it earlier because she was too overwhelmed with grief. Then she insisted we proceed quickly. Mom wouldn't have wanted any drama. Drama, of course, was exactly what she feared. She moved into the house that same week without even asking. Changed the locks. Donated what she called junk family heirlooms, including my grandfather's war medals and Mom's antique record player. She said the house needed a fresh start. I stood on the lawn the day the dumpster arrived, watched her toss memories into it like trash. She didn't even look embarrassed. In fact, she looked free. But I had the real will. I just wasn't ready to use it yet, because I needed proof that everyone else would believe. The truth wasn't enough. It had to be undeniable. So I called Mr. Kent privately. I asked him to compare the documents. He hesitated at first. "Olivia, these things can get messy." "They're already messy," I replied. A few days later, he confirmed what I already knew. "The signature on Danielle's version doesn't match your mother's medical-era handwriting," he said. "And there are no witnesses listed unusual for someone as meticulous as your mom. Not to mention, no official notary stamp. That's a red flag." Danielle's will wasn't just suspicious, it was criminal. So I contacted Sarah McIntyre, a probate attorney known for handling cases exactly like mine. She read both documents, looked me in the eye, and said, "You've got her. But we have to do this carefully. If she gets wind of what we're doing, she might destroy evidence or flee with assets." So we filed a quiet petition with the county court to challenge the validity of the submitted will. The court issued a hold on the estate, freezing all transactions until authenticity could be proven. When Danielle received the notice, she exploded. She called me at midnight, voice-shaking fury barely contained. "You filed a challenge against me, I did. You're unbelievable. You've always been jealous." "No, I've always been quiet." "That's not the same." She hung up on me. The next day, her husband Darren showed up at my door. I could tell by his eyes he had no idea what Danielle had done until now. "Is this really happening?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "And it's not about the house, it's about the truth." Meanwhile, the court ordered an official handwriting analysis. Danielle's version was declared suspicious. The ink was newer than it should have been. The paper didn't match the firm's original letterhead, and the signature. It had been traced from a document signed 5 years earlier. They even found impressions of Danielle's handwriting practicing Mom's signature in the pages of a yellow notepad at her home. The evidence was piling up fast. By the time our court hearing arrived, Danielle looked nothing like the glowing golden child everyone remembered. She wore a black pantsuit too tight across the shoulders. Her makeup couldn't hide the panic on her face. In court, she tried to backpedal, claimed she was just confused, that she found the will in an old drawer, and assumed it was the right one. But it was too late. When I handed the court the real will, the one Mom had given me, signed notarized, and witnessed by 2 longtime friends, there was no denying it. The judge looked at both documents, looked at Danielle, then looked at me. This court recognizes the will submitted by Ms. Olivia Harper as the valid and final testament of the late Mrs. Margaret Harper. All previous claims are null and void. Danielle didn't say a word, didn't look at me, didn't even cry. She simply slumped into her chair like a deflated balloon. I should have felt vindicated, but all I felt was grief again. Not for my mother this time, but for the sister I thought I knew. The ink on the judge's ruling was barely dry when the fallout began. Danielle didn't speak to me after court. Not a call, not a message, not even one of those snide passive-aggressive comments she used to deliver so well. Nothing, just silence. But silence can be deafening when it's packed with shame. The judge's statement was clear: the forged will was invalid. The assets would be returned to their rightful heir, me. Danielle was ordered to vacate the property within 30 days. She was also required to return all financial documents, heirlooms, and any items listed in the original will as family inheritance. Sarah, my attorney, leaned over in the courtroom and whispered, "This is a rare kind of win. You didn't just defend your rights, you exposed a felony." Still, I didn't smile. I couldn't. I'd brought the truth forward, but it didn't feel like victory. Not when it came at the cost of blood. Danielle's forged will had unraveled faster than I ever expected. The handwriting expert confirmed what we already knew: her version of the signature wasn't just wrong, it was copied. Traced. Inconsistent with my mother's motor skills in her final months. Too clean, too precise. Mom had been on pain medication. Her signature had trembled by then. But the one on Danielle's will, smooth as glass. Sloppy mistake, really. On top of that, Danielle had made one fatal misstep: she used a home printer. The ink wasn't legal grade, and the date stamp on the document metadata, retrieved from her email backups, showed the document was created 2 weeks after Mom died. Even worse, the witness Danielle had listed turned out to be a former co-worker of hers, who hadn't even been in the state at the time. We subpoenaed his travel records. He'd been vacationing in Arizona. The man nearly choked when asked in deposition if he'd signed a will. "No, ma'am," he said. "I don't even know her mother." It was over. The legal part, at least. But the emotional war, that would take longer to mend. A week after the court ruling, I returned to the house. Technically, my house now, but it didn't feel like mine yet. I walked room to room, just trying to breathe it all in. The walls had been repainted. My mother's favorite floral wallpaper gone. The photo albums missing. The kitchen, once filled with the smell of cinnamon and fresh biscuits, now reeked of air freshener and bleach. Danielle had tried to erase everything, but she missed a few things. In the attic, I found a box marked seasonal decor. Inside, beneath tangled Christmas lights, sat the original wedding photo of my parents. Mom was barely 20, grinning in a lace dress, holding Dad's hand like she'd never let go. I cried when I saw it. Not because of the picture, but because Danielle had tried to bury it, just like she tried to bury me. I found other things too, letters Mom had written but never sent, her favorite mug chipped but still intact, and the blue shawl she used to wear during cold chemo nights, still faintly carrying her scent. I wrapped it around my shoulders and sat on the living room floor. For the first time since the funeral, I let myself truly grieve. Not just for Mom, but for everything we'd lost. For the sister I once believed in. For the family that would never be the same. Danielle left town before the 30-day window closed. She didn't return most of the heirlooms, despite the court order. My attorney sent a formal complaint, but in truth, I didn't have the energy to keep fighting. I had the will. I had the house. But what I wanted most, peace, was something I had to rebuild on my own. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Danielle's marriage was on the rocks. Darren had moved out. Her social circle shrunk overnight. The charity board she served on politely asked her to step down. People in our community might not have said it aloud, but they knew. Truth spreads even when lies try to outrun it. I didn't gloat. In fact, I felt sad. Sad that my sister was so desperate to rewrite our mother's final words, she ended up destroying her own credibility. She didn't just lose the house, she lost her dignity, her name, and whatever trust remained between us. Mom had warned me once years ago before the illness. Danielle's always been afraid of not being the center of the story, she'd said. But one day, the truth writes its own ending. She was right. I didn't have to fight Danielle. I just had to stand still and hold the truth in my hands until the storm passed. That envelope Mom gave me, tucked away in my drawer for months, was more than paper and ink. It was her voice, her choice, her love, and I had honored it. The sun was setting behind the oak trees as I sat on the porch, holding a cup of coffee in the same mug Mom used every morning. The breeze was soft, the air calm. For the first time in months, maybe longer, the house felt still. Like it had been waiting for the storm to pass. Everything was mine now, legally, on paper, but emotionally, spiritually. That was still a work in progress. I had spent so long holding on to that envelope, guarding the truth like a fragile flame in the wind. When I finally let it speak, let it burn through the lies, what remained wasn't satisfaction. It was silence, loss, and a sadness that didn't let go easily. I walked through the halls sometimes and imagined Mom humming as she dusted picture frames. I could almost hear the clink of her spoon in the teacup, the shuffle of her slippers, the soft rhythm of a life once lived fully here. Danielle, though, she never called, never wrote, not even a single word of regret. Maybe she couldn't bring herself to. Maybe she didn't think she'd done anything wrong. Or maybe, deep down, she knew an apology would never be enough. The truth is, some betrayals leave a bruise too deep for time to reach. Could I forgive her? Someday, maybe. But not today. Because forgiveness isn't about pretending it didn't happen. It's about healing enough that it doesn't control you anymore. And I wasn't there yet. Still, I kept living. I adopted a dog from the local shelter, Maggie, a sleepy golden retriever with kind eyes. I planted roses out front, the kind Mom loved. I hosted a quiet dinner for a few friends who stood by me through everything. No champagne, no big speeches, just warmth, just truth. And every now and then, I get a message from someone who's seen this video or heard the story secondhand. They say, "This happened to me too. I wish I had the strength you did. Thank you for telling the truth." And that makes it worth it. Because when families fall apart over greed, silence is what lets the damage spread. But when someone dares to speak up, even if their voice shakes, it opens a door. A way back to dignity, to peace, to justice. So now I ask you, What would you do if your own sister forged a will to erase you from your mother's final wishes? Would you stay silent to keep the peace, or fight to honor the truth? If you've ever been betrayed by someone you loved, tell your story in the comments. If this moved, you share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because the truth deserves to be heard. And justice, even quiet justice, matters.